yeah. We got the juice, we got the watch. Ain't no way we fading. They go low and we go high. They play ego limbo on the other side.
This is a better path
Keep
about
humble,
creating a
ain't
path
no
of
honor
liquidity.
in your pride. Lying in me, lethal weapon on my side. Praise my God, promise we ain't coming down. Same thing for the crown, same thing for the team. Breaking down any odds, only care about what God say. My hard with the tribe, yeah. All the glory to my Yahweh, all the glory to my God,
I rise to
yeah.
support the Cash Act, which will send $2,000 checks to the American people. I want to thank Chairman Neal for coming together very quickly to create this act in a thoughtful way. The American people are hurting this holiday season, and they need our help. Our bill would increase those payments to $2,000, which should also
They
include
go
adult
low and
dependents,
we go high.
students,
They play
and
ego
realize
limbo
that
on the
$600
other
is not
side.
enough for people facing
We
eviction.
keep humble, ain't no honor in your
This will
pride.
just pay a pass-through rental
Lying
bill
in
for
me,
July.
lethal weapon on my
Good and important
side.
that we're sending support to
Praise
small
my
businesses,
God,
strong unemployment
promise
aid,
we ain't coming
nutrition
down.
and rental
Same
assistance.
thing for the
But this
crown,
relief is coming
same
7
thing
months
for
later
the
than it
team.
should have.
Breaking down any
Despite all
odds,
the Congress
only
not
care about
taking
what
the
God
American
say.
penny
My
fixing
heart with the tribe,
This
yeah. All the
cash bill
glory to
is
my
bipartisan.
Yahweh, all the
And
glory to
Senator
my
Connolly
God,
put it on the Senate floor,
yeah. I
it will
dip
be
my toe
bicameral.
in, now I'm fresh,
Let me
yeah.
push back
Shout
to you.
out
This
to
is
my
too
Yahweh,
much.
yeah. I
If
follow
40 million
no
Americans
regrets,
work
yeah. They
full-time
ain't
make
learn
less
their
than
lesson. I'm still blessed when
$18,000 last year.
disrespect.
The
Father
minimum
got
wage,
me eating while they out
$7.25.
here looking
There's in a single two-bedroom apartment you can rent in a county
You
in
just mad
America
I ain't
for
following
that
Twitter
money.
D. Looking
Tens
at
of
me like
millions without
enemy,
healthcare.
only like in
My
vicinity.
family
I'm so
sells-
high with the energy. Yeah, you follow his way, yeah. Follow his way, yeah. Laser light show never fade, no. Ain't no stage chill. We got all night, no switch, we that bright light. On lane, we might take flight. Flight check ain't no right height. We don't fall or lose sight. Follow his way, yeah. Follow his way, yeah. We got the juice, we got the watch. Ain't no way we fading. They go low and we go high. They play ego limbo on the other side. We keep humble, ain't no honor in your pride. Lying in me, lethal weapon on my side. Praise my God, promise we ain't coming down. Same thing for the crown, same thing for the team. Breaking down any odds, only care about what God say. My hard with the tribe, yeah. All the glory to my Yahweh, all the glory to my God.
Yo, peace. What's going on? I'm not going to do too much of an intro on this one. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start watching what's going on. Right now we have Representative Don Beyer from the Democratic Virginia 8th District in Arlington, Alexandria, and Falls Church. So right now he's on the floor talking in the House. We're going to go ahead and go over and watch that. I know it may seem a little boring to some, but we're going to get adjusted what the arguments are for and against raising the $2,000 stimulus and passing this amendment for this stimulus. So we're going to switch over. I'm definitely on C-SPAN. Let's tune in to see what's going on right now. If I can get this thing working.
I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Texas reserves. The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me yield 1 minute to the gentlelady from Texas, Congresswoman Jackson Lee.
The gentlelady from Texas is recognized for.
The thing that's important about this is because this is putting the people on record who was going against what we're doing.
And all of the Democratic members and Republican members who understand what this legislation is. It is a survival cash payment for Americans making under a certain amount, which means they're on the survival pathway. Maybe they haven't spoken to the constituents of, I believe, probably 90% of the members of this Congress who have said they are on the edge and they're about to go over. They can't pay their rent. They can't buy food. They're in food distribution lines. Before I came here Sunday, I was in a place at a church in the Nash Greenhouse International where we were giving out food. I asked during the spring for $3,000. I was willing to go for $600 so that desperate Americans could get enough to survive. I am supporting this. I ask my friends and colleagues on both sides of the aisles, recognize that when you are privileged to stand in a place like this, where the constitutional fathers gave us the opportunity
Gentlewoman's time has expired.
to lead this government, stand for the American people. I support the CASH Act because it is survival for Americans.
The gentlewoman's time has expired. The gentleman from Massachusetts reserves. The gentleman from Texas is recognized.
I yield myself 30 seconds.
The gentleman's recognized.
I would point out to my colleague that nothing in this bill helps anyone get back to work. Not a dime to the 8 million people who are left unemployed because of COVID. Not a dime to help our small and medium-sized businesses. Not a dime for Main Street. With that, I continue to reserve.
Gentleman reserves.
What is so disrespectful is the fact that this is for Main Street people. I don't know what he's talking about.
Gentleman from Texas is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I thank the chair for yielding the time. Mr. Speaker, at some point on the infinite continuum that we call time, we will all have to account for our time. We're all going to have to answer the question, where were you when a pandemic was gripping the land? What did you do when you had the opportunity to put money in the pockets of people who needed it? Where was your courage when you had the chance to cast a vote to make a difference?
I'm going to pause on him because he's going to say the same thing that most of the Democrats are going to say. But the thing about it is that I'm having an issue with, truly having an issue with, is the fact that they keep making this argument that it's not helping people go back to work. The fact of the matter is it's not helping anyone to go back to work, no, but nobody is able to go back to work solely because we had to close down the country. So it makes absolutely no sense for that argument to have even come out the mouth of any person that's speaking at the moment.
Members of this chamber, why we're here today. The CARES Act passed this House with, I think, 5 dissenters in the entire chamber. That was months and months ago. People exhausted the $1,200 that we allocated based upon our tax system and even the difficulty that we had in trying to find adequate identification for those in America as joint filers making under $24,000 a year, single filers making under $12,000 a year. Who can live on $12,000 a year? That's $1,000 a month. People have exhausted that benefit. They have tried earnestly and seriously to overcome these obstacles that were created for them, not because of anything they did. We are not here because of malfeasance, speculation that derailed Wall Street in 2008, or corruption. We're here because of an international pandemic when members of the American family at the lower end of the economic spectrum are hurting.
Correct.
When we sought advice on putting together the CARES Act, the Speaker and myself in particular, in those very earnest days with Secretary Mnuchin, we sought the advice of the best economists, former Treasury secretaries, members of the Federal Reserve Board, people that do this every single day, and they all said you need to act with speed and determination. Speed! To get that money into the hands of people who will actually spend it, and that's precisely what we did. We got it to people at the lower end of the economic spectrum. But as we proceed now to the new year, these people need another infusion of cash. And I'm going to go back to this point that I think is something that we need to remember. 3 years ago, this House, over the objection of myself and many others, passed a tax cut that clearly benefited the people at the very top of the economic spectrum, the top 1% in particular. Dividends, buybacks, a top cut in the corporate rate from 36 to 21%, the top rate into the individual side from 39 to 37%. And we can't find it in our hearts in this holiday season, again based upon the Charles Dickens parable of A Christmas Carol, to provide $2,000 worth of assistance to our brothers and sisters at the bottom end of economic income. This chamber is better than that. I reserve the balance of my time.
Again, most of these
Gentleman
people
reserves
making
the
like
balance of his time.
over
The gentleman
$300,000
I
a
will
year.
reserve as well.
Gentleman from Texas
Most Americans
reserves.
are only making like $68,000 a year.
I was
They can afford
hoping
to,
that the ranking member might have more to
move how
say.
they
I'm
moving,
prepared to
but
close when
most
you are.
Well,
people
we're not
can't.
prepared to close, but we were hoping that you might intermittently.
I'll tell you what, let me, with your permission, I'll yield myself as much time as I may consume.
Gentleman from Texas is recognized for such time as he may consume.
Madam Speaker, you can say a lot about this Congress, but you cannot say we have not worked together and appropriated remarkable funding to help families defeat this COVID, to get back on their feet, to save small businesses. And a good example is that so far, Congress, both parties, have already approved more than $20,800 direct cash payments to a family of four with one parent out of work. That's on top of an estimated $18,000 of state unemployment benefits, a little less than $40,000 to help working families survive this COVID pandemic. But today, we do nothing in this bill to help the 8 million Americans who lost their job due to COVID. We could double the amount of money that goes to small businesses or mid-sized businesses so they can rehire their workers and keep them on the payroll to try to survive and ride this out.
Is he really
We don't
saying
know
this right
yet
now?
what the vaccinations will do to consumer confidence or to the lockdowns. Our view, and again, we expect a number of Republicans to support this bill. In my
People have
view,
already lost their
we
jobs.
would be wiser to assess the impact of the vaccinations and the recovery going forward so that we can target relief to Main Street, to helping get people back to work, and to truly stimulating our local economy. That's where we address the harm that's been done by COVID. With that, I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Texas reserves the balance of his time. The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm glad the ranking member reminded us of what we were able to accomplish together in the CARES Act, and I think that's what we're asking for here again this evening. With that, let me recognize the gentlelady from California, the Speaker of the House, Speaker Pelosi.
The distinguished Speaker of the
I
House
have a
is now
great
recognized.
disdain for this woman.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I
Great
thank the gentleman for
disdain.
yielding, and I thank him for his masterful work in not only bringing this legislation to the floor, but working in a bipartisan way to have so many important initiatives in the COVID and the omnibus bill that the President happily for us signed last evening. I thank him for his initiatives that are job creating, that stimulate the economy and help meet the needs of the American people. I'm interested in the comments made by Mr. Brady because he said we could be putting more money into small business, and we do indeed in the COVID package, around $300 billion. And I think it's important to note, Madam Speaker, that that brings it to about almost $1 trillion since March 27th, 28th, when the President signed the CARES Act, about $950 billion for small business, nearly $1 trillion. Very important. Small business is the heart of our economy. What could be more optimistic for anyone to do but to follow their dreams, start a small business, create jobs, create wealth, carry capital? So important. We see the importance of that to the tune of about $1 trillion, just under $1 trillion in these past several months. But if you want to talk about job creation, I hope the gentleman will join us when we go forward to do state and local, our healthcare workers, honoring our heroes. They're at risk of losing their jobs. While they risk their lives to save lives, they may lose their jobs. and over 1 million of them have. We're talking about healthcare workers. We're talking about police and fire, our first responders. We're talking about transportation, sanitation, food workers. We're talking about our teachers, the custodians of our children for a large part of their day. They are at risk of losing their jobs because of the failure of the Republican side of the aisle to support.
And I'm going to mute that right quick because she's going to be talking on Nancy Pelosi always be talking on. The thing that he's not, this senator is not this representative is not understanding is the fact that, look, bro, like, nobody has a job right now. Like, people are losing their jobs. The fact that we don't have stimulus money is the fact that a lot of these smaller businesses that he's trying to say they need to save, they don't have enough people, they don't have enough money in the economy locally to even push these businesses to be able to stay open so they can keep the people that they have on staff working. It's just simple economics. And it blows my mind because these are the people that we vote into power. And they're so separated from what people actually need. They're so separated from what people actually need that they actually forget that we exist and that these are actual issues. It makes absolutely no sense at all.
Save jobs, let's grow jobs by administering this vaccine as fairly, as equitably as possible and free to everyone in our country, because if we're not protected, none of us is. Unless all of us are protected, none of us is protected. So this $2,000, which thank you for bringing to the floor on Christmas Eve, was roundly rejected by a Republican. They asked for unanimous consent. This could already be exist as a law if that had happened, but it didn't. So now today we have another chance. Some of the Republicans said, oh, if they really wanted that, they would have called for a vote that day. That wasn't true. It's important to note that was a pro forma session, and you had to have the consent of the Republicans to bring the bill to the floor.
Correct.
They withheld their consent.
She's not lying about that.
So here we are today in a legislative day where we just act with the majority to bring the legislation to the floor. I hope it will enjoy a strong bipartisan support. The President of the United States has put this forth as something that he wants to see in terms of, and part of his signing the legislation yesterday. I hope that that view will be shared by the Republicans in the Senate, because we will pass this bill today, either under suspension or under a rule where it just requires a majority vote. Under suspension, as you know, 2/3 vote requires a large number of Republican votes, which I hope we will have, because I do think that the American people would love to see that unity on their behalf. We are a consumer economy. Putting money into the hands of the American people is a boost to our economy. Not much. This isn't a big stimulus package. The COVID bill is a emergency supplemental, but this piece will make it something very important to sustaining our economy. And I thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the work.
And again, stimulus is to stimulate the economy. It's called a stimulus bill. To stimulus. They are stimulus checks to stimulate the economy. Anybody who is going against this bill is going against the American people. Anybody who's going against this amendment is going against the American people. They're going against their own party, because personally, I feel, and a lot of people feel, that the party right now for the Republicans is a Donald Trump party. And without Donald Trump, they would have lost to Hillary Clinton. They had no one who was viable enough to be president at this point in time. it makes absolutely no sense why they keep going against their own constituency. I say this about Democrats and I say this about Republicans. I say it about both of them. But it baffles me as to why anyone would want to go against your own constituency just to lose your job in the next election, just so you can get a little bit more money than you normally would during this point in time. It makes absolutely no sense. The real money is staying in politics. The way you stay in politics is by creating policies that work for the people. But again, we live in a very bureaucratic nation right now. It's all about the green.
Are facing, and it would deny them, again, the relief they need. And with that, I urge a strong bipartisan vote for the aptly named Cash Act. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And they calling this the Cash Act. The Cash Act.
The gentleman from
interesting.
California, the Speaker of the House, yields back. The gentleman from Massachusetts reserves, and the gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Madam Speaker, may I just inquire how much time is remaining?
The gentleman from Texas has 9 minutes remaining. Gentleman from Massachusetts has 3.5 minutes remaining.
So, Madam Speaker, we are prepared to close. And with that, I would yield myself as much time as I may consume.
Gentleman from Texas is yielding himself such time as he may consume. The gentleman is recognized.
First, let me congratulate the Chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, Mr. Neal, for working so closely together on our bipartisan priorities. Ending surprise medical bills when you go to the ER or you have a scheduled medical procedure. Ensuring starting at the end of next year for the first time, when you go to that doctor's procedure, you have a true and honest bill in advance of that will be so crucial for so many patients. And I also thank the chairman for working so closely in a bipartisan way on the COVID tax relief provisions and the first reforms of our temporary tax provisions in 5 years. So, Chairman Neal, I applaud your work and enjoy working with you. The previous speaker talked about essential work.
We're literally arguing about whether we should give people money or not. Whether we should give people money or more businesses money. That's what the argument is about.
President Trump, in this executive order, proposed a payroll tax holiday for nearly 5 months for these workers. That would have meant for those essential workers, that firefighter, that hospital worker, that nurse, that they would have kept, a family of 4 would have kept an extra $5,000 in their paycheck throughout the holidays. If we really wanted to help essential workers, our Democrat friends would not have blocked that payroll tax holiday and would have adopted our bill to make sure that those taxes, payroll taxes, were forgiven. As for state and local governments, they too, even though I disagree with many of the decisions, deserve our thanks. And thankfully, because this was the most rapid labor market recovery following a crisis in history, and we recovered more than half the jobs we've lost. State and local revenues this year are almost even, down a mere less than 1%. Thank goodness Congress came together in the CARES Act to provide more than $150 billion to those state and local governments to be able to address these needs and continue to function. I will tell you, too, that, again, I speak only for myself. The best way to help struggling families is to get them back to work. The best way to save our Main Street is to give our small, medium-sized businesses more help than we have. This bill does neither. I think it is correct when the earlier speaker said this is not a stimulus. It is not. And it does nothing to help get people back to work. I worry that as we spend another nearly $500 billion so hastily, that we're not targeting this help to the very the Americans who are struggling the most and need that help. I will also point out that, as I said earlier, Congress has come together to provide a family of 4 with one unemployed parent now just a little short of $40,000 of federal money in their traditional state unemployment because we knew they were struggling. Now is the time to get them back to work. That is my personal objection to this bill. I urge Congress to pause for a moment, to assess the vaccinations over the next few months or year, to determine where next we need to weigh in, if at all, on this recovery as we continue to work together to defeat this virus. With that, Madam Speaker, I am honored to be here today, and I yield the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Texas yields the balance of his time. Gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm prepared to close. And I want to acknowledge the good efforts of Ranking Member Brady on the energy front in the tax package as well. A series of compromised measures. He did a terrific job, I think it's fair to say, on surprise billing, and not to mention USMCA. Those were very substantive accomplishments that the Ways and Means Committee led on in the 116th Congress. He mentioned that, as he was closing, he mentioned that this measure he did not want to see treated as stimulus, and he's right. This is not about stimulus. This is about stability. This is about building a bridge for those people who are really hurting as we turn the page on this year. This is about those who are wondering how they're going to make the next rental payment, sustenance for the American family, how they might repair that automobile that sits in the garage idle because they couldn't afford it. That's what this is really about this evening. I started with Charles Dickens and A Christmas Carol and the lessons of Jacob Marley. But let me conclude with a very simple description in the epic America. When asked what it was that set America apart from the rest of the world, it was suggested it was a habit of the heart, a kindness and a decency and a goodness. And let me close the debate on that basis and urge passage of the Cash Act and $2,000 for the American people. I yield back my time.
The gentleman from Massachusetts.
So I'm gonna pause right there. Of course, we got Maxine Waters talk. I mean, not Maxine Waters. I'm sorry, that's not Maxine Waters. I don't know why I said that, but the argument that they're having right now boils down to there's not enough money going to businesses in this bill, and it's more money going to people in this bill who are just going to spend their money on electronics. That's literally what they said. What this representative said. That's standing up, this bald head man. I forgot what his name was, but he literally was like, "Oh, we shouldn't give them money because they just going spend it on electronics and frivolous stuff." That's going to stimulate the economy. He in his own conjecture, in his own disagreement of what we're talking about here, the solution was there. Give the money to the people so they can spend it in these places that they see fit. That will stimulate the economy. Many people are going to spend their money on paying their bills, paying rent, paying for groceries. This is going to stimulate the economy. This is going to help not only the people, but it's also going to help those businesses. We're not talking about Walmart and Amazon and all of these other big box stores that have still been getting money due to the effects of what's going on during the coronavirus. We're still dealing with the effects of the coronavirus. But the simple fact is that when you give money to the people who need it, they spend it in the economy and they drive the economy. Right now, even this senator said it, the same one who has conjecture. He said it himself. And go back, right now we're watching C-SPAN. Go watch it back and you'll see. He was saying that the economy is up. The economy is up. The economy is up. Why was he saying the economy was up? He was trying to say that the economy was up due to inflation. And that is totally incorrect. Right now, I get notices for my house almost every single day for somebody telling me that interest rates have dropped to historical lows. That is not the definition of inflation. Dropping down to historical lows, the interest rates on certain loans and things and money at the same time is not inflation. That's deflation, meaning there are more goods than there is money, than there are people buying those goods. There is a surplus of what we need. And why is that? Because all of these big box stores and all of these big companies are still producing products because they have to stay open. In order for them to stay open, they still need consumers to buy money. So in order for us to experience any type of inflation at this point, or even any leveling out of the economy, we still need consumers, because we're a consumer-based economy. We need consumers to come in and spend money. Now, how do they spend money if they don't have money? How do they spend money if they don't have money? How do you spend money if you don't have money? This is the reason why this is important. This is the reason why this stimulus bill is important, because it helps us to stimulate the economy. But the Republicans, and I hate saying it, the Republicans are fighting the American people because they feel like we're just opening the purse for anybody and everybody, not taking into consideration that we're in a global pandemic. That means not only our economy is affected, the global economy is affected. This is not some just thing that's going to be over with tomorrow. They've already told us, even with the measures that we have, even with the vaccines, we're still going to be experiencing coronavirus even until the middle of next year. Let's change over to what's going on the floor.
Texas is now recognized.
Madam Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume. Madam Speaker, I thank the chairman for yielding and once again want to commend him for his stewardship of the committee through very challenging times. Madam Speaker, I continue to support this bill, as more than 80% of the House did just 20 days ago. It's the exact same bill. Not a comma has changed. It still prevents the military from having their pay cut. It still creates new tools to deal with a newly aggressive China. It still includes the important U.S.-Israel Assistance Act and provides help for Vietnam veterans. One thing, I guess, is new in the past few days because a devastating cyber attack by Russia has been exposed. But fortunately, this bill has dozens of provisions to help strengthen the country's defenses in cyber. So the President has exercised his constitutional prerogative. Now, Madam Speaker, it's up to us. Our troops, the country, indeed the world, is watching to see what we will do. Whether we can tune out other differences and still come together to support the men and women of the military and American national security. I would only ask that as members vote, they put the best interests of the country first, There is no other consideration that should matter. This vote is about supporting our troops and defending America. While not perfect, this bill does a good job of advancing both and should be supported once again. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Texas.
Now we're talking
yields
about
back,
the
balance of his
override
time.
for the defense.
Gentlemen,
So we're
suspend.
going
The House will be in order. Members should take their
I'm probably going to
conversations
talk about
off the
this in a
floor.
separate video. But right now we want to talk more about what's going on with the stimulus. That's why I brought you all here to the so we could talk about the stimulus and what's going on the floor. But the main argument that Republicans are having is that this doesn't do enough for businesses. But again, like I explained, it helps businesses, especially those small failing businesses. Like there's no reason why in my state, in where I am, they should have a long list of businesses that have closed and will close permanently. And I'm not talking about just any businesses. I'm talking about those mom and pop stores, those small businesses that they keep on saying they love so much, that they're helping out in the PPP loan, with the PPP and the EIDL. You know, those businesses. But we know from the last time, so many people defrauded that portion of it. And then let's not even talk about that. Let's talk about the stimulus in itself. The amount of stimulus that people got for the amount of days didn't match up to what they actually needed. You got you got a $1,200 check per person, and it was like $500 per child. So if you got a couple, that was $2,400, and if it was a family of 3, that was $3,000. That was supposed to last you all the way up until now, until they got another stimulus check. For most Americans, again, they're used to making that a month because they have bills that they have to pay. A lot of Americans don't have $800 or $200 rent. They just don't. And then they have other bills that go on top of that. So we have to be realistic about the actual amount that we're giving them. Now, right now, they're fighting on the floor for and this is the Republicans. They're fighting to continue to fund the military-industrial complex. But they're not fighting for putting money in the pockets of people, Americans. They're fighting for more money for businesses. And when they start talking about small and medium businesses, they're not talking about mom and pop stores. I'm telling you this right now. They are not talking about mom and pop stores. They're not talking about your homegirl that does braids. They're not talking about the guy on the corner that might sell black products. They're not talking about those companies. They're talking about corporations that make about $100,000 and up a year. Not saying that those businesses don't, but I'm talking about these ones that have multiple that are making $500,000, that are grossing $1 million a year and up. Those are the companies that they're talking about. You know, the same companies, the billion-dollar companies that line their pockets, that are going to take the money and use it for other ways. They don't care. They really don't care about anything else other than lining the pockets of those who are lining theirs. This is a slap in the face of Americans from the Republicans. And if it was the Democrats doing it, I would say the same thing. I talked about Nancy Pelosi, how she dragged her feet when Trump actually was asking about the $2,000, even in the summer. And now the Republicans are doing the same thing. They want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to be able to tell you that you don't need money, but they want to tell you that but businesses need money. When we live in a consumer market. We live in a consumer market. That means that every business needs a consumer in order to thrive. That means if the consumers don't have money, how are businesses supposed to have money? It just doesn't work. Many people have lost their businesses permanently. The effects of the coronavirus and this pandemic will have everlasting effects for a very long time, even after the pandemic is over. Trust me. We're going to be dealing with the effects of what happened to coronavirus, what happened during the coronavirus for at least 5 to 10 years, even after the pandemic is over. You have to remember, infrastructure has to be rebuilt. These people with their businesses have to build their credit back up. They have to get jobs, enough jobs to furnish the people who have lost their jobs. And if we still have restrictions, come on, man. They're not being wise about this. They're talking about a deficit when the deficit is going to run up regardless. Because, again, if we don't have enough money being made in the economy, the GDP goes down. So they're not even going to have enough money to spend on the government anyway. They're doing the vote. And right now it is totals 427 votes. Democrats 232 votes to Republican 192 votes. You have 1 yay, 2 nays. Time remaining on the floor. Time remaining on the floor is 13 minutes. So we're going to figure out what's going to happen on this COVID relief. They need a 2/3 majority in order to get the COVID relief, and I'm afraid we may not have that. Oh, we might have it. I don't know. Excuse that. I don't know what that was popping up.
Congressman Rick Larsen will vote yes on H.R. 9051. Thank you.
6 yeas. The good thing about this is that we have actually will be able to see who voted for this bill. Who actually voted for the bill and who voted against the bill. And you do with what you think you should with that information. If this is somebody in your neck of the woods, when it's time to vote, you know what to do. They are not on your side. I promise you that. They're not on your side. We have a Republican yes.
I didn't hear you.
Three
For what
Republican
purposes
noes.
does the gentlewoman from New Mexico rise?
As the member designated by Mr. Phillips pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Mr. Phillips will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Mr. Malinowski pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Mr. Malinowski will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
Again, this is a line being drawn in the sand here, as we're waiting for this vote to see on who is going to whether we're going to get
Gentleman
this
from
passed.
Connecticut rise.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Ms. Rosa DeLauro, pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Ms. DeLauro will vote yes on H.R. 9051. Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Himes, pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Mr. Himes will vote yes on H.R. 9051. Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Ms. Roybal Allard, pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Ms. Roybal Allard will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
I don't know what they did to the
Purposes
scoreboard.
does the gentleman from Virginia rise?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Blumenauer, pursuant to H.R. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Blumenauer will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Mr. Liu, pursuant to H.R. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Liu will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Ms. Barragan, pursuant to H.R. 965, I inform the House that Ms. Barragan will vote yes on H.R. 951. As the member designated by Mr. Lowenthal, pursuant to H.R. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Lowenthal will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Mr. Peters, pursuant to H.R. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Peters will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Ms. Moore, pursuant to H.R. 965, I inform the House that Ms. Moore will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Mr. Cohen, pursuant to H.R. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Cohen will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Mr. Veazey, pursuant to H.R. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Veazey will vote yes on H.R. 9051. And as the member designated by Mr. Rooney, pursuant to H.R. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Rooney will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
Illinois.
They're running up the numbers. We got 3 Republicans yes, saying yes. 3 Republicans saying yes, bringing up the tally to 17, 18. And then we have 18 votes, 19 votes, 20 votes. This 17 Democrats, 3 Republicans, yes. And you
The
can see it on
gentleman
the
from
screen.
Illinois rise.
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Schneider of Illinois, pursuant to House Res 965, I inform the House that Mr. Schneider will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
Please pay attention to the people who are the names that they're calling. If they are in your neck of the woods, you know what to do.
Purposes does the gentleman from New York rise?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Gianforte of Montana pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Gianforte will vote no on H.R. 9051.
He's going. Purposes does the gentleman from Colorado rise?
Good evening, Madam Speaker. As the member designated by Mr. Joe Neguse of Colorado, pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Neguse will vote yes on H.R. 9051. And as the member designated by Mr. Jason Crow of Colorado, pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Crow will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
Again, this bill that we're looking at is going to be passed unanimously through the Democrats. What we are looking for is to see the number of Republicans that will vote for it. Right now, we have 386 votes that need to be tallied. And right now, we have 34 to 11. So we know we're going to have majority of the Democrats passing it. We just need Republicans to pass this bill. But again, we're talking about whether we should give businesses money, vice versa, of giving
Versus the gentleman from Virginia
money.
rise.
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Ms. Titus of Nevada, pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Ms. Titus will vote yes on H.R. 9051. Also, as the member designated by Mr. Barra of California, pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Ms. Barra will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
We
For
have
what
5
purposes
Republicans
does the gentleman from
who are
Rhode
voting
Island
yes
rise?
to 17
Madam Speaker, as a
Republicans.
member designated by Ms. Pingree of Maine, pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Ms. Pingree will vote yes on H.R. 9051. Madam Speaker, as a member designated by Ms. Del Bene of Washington State, pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Ms. Del Bene will vote yes on H.R. 9051. And Madam Speaker, as a member designated by Ms. Sewell of Alabama, pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Ms. Sewell will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
Does the gentleman from North Carolina rise?
Madam Speaker, as a member designated by Mr. Bishop of Georgia, pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Bishop will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As a member designated by Mr. Carson of Indiana, pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Carson will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As a member designated by Mr. Clay of Missouri, pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Clay will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As a member designated by Mr. Clyburn of South Carolina, pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Clyburn will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As a member designated by Mr. Price of North Carolina, pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Price will vote yes on H.R. 9051. And finally, Madam Speaker, as a member designated by Mr. Richmond of Louisiana, pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Richmond will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
So we have 8 Republicans and 8 to 22 Republicans who have said no. So we have 8 yeses
from
and
California
22 noes
rise.
from the Republicans.
Madam Speaker, as member designated by Congressmember Napolitano, pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Congressmember Napolitano will vote yes on H.R. 9051. And Madam Speaker, as member designated by Congressmember Vargas, pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Congressmember Vargas will vote yes on H.R. 9051. And Madam Speaker, as member designated by Congressmember Torres, pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Congressmember Torres will vote yes on H.R. 9051. And, Madam Speaker,
So the
as
magic
member
number is
designated by
290.
Congressmember Gabbard, pursuant to House Resolution 965,
We need
I inform the House that
290
Congressmember
votes.
Gabbard will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
Yes. Does the gentlewoman from Delaware rise?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Tonko of New York pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Tonko will vote yes on H.R. 9051. And as the member designated by Ms. DeGette of Colorado pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Ms. DeGette will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
So right now we got, as of the roll call today, we have 196 Republicans and 233 Democrats with 5 vacancies and 1 Libertarian. Currently, we need to get 290 votes. That means Democrats need 60, about 50.
For what purposes does the gentleman from Maryland rise?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr.
Republicans to change over and
Krishnamurthy
say yes.
of Illinois, pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Mr. Krishnamurthy will vote yes on H.R. 9051. And as the member designated by Ms. Adams of North Carolina, pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Ms. Adams will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
Again, 196 Republicans are in the roll call right now, and 29 of them have already voted no. We have 10.
This is the
so that
gentleman
means we
from
need
Massachusetts
40 more
rise.
in order
Good
to
evening.
vote with
Madam Speaker,
156
as the member
votes
designated
left.
by the Honorable Mr. James Langevin of Rhode Island, and pursuant to House Resolution 965, I'd like to inform the House that Mr. Langevin will vote yes on H.R. 9051, the Caring for Americans with Supplemental Help Act of 2020. Thank you.
So the total is 70 to 31. Again, we need 290 votes. Because for this bill, we need a 2/3 majority in order to pass this amendment. So we need 290 votes. And right now we have 73 to 31. Again, we already know that we are going to get all of the votes from the Democrats across the board. We should be getting to pass this amendment. What we're looking for is about 50 Republicans. Now, if we don't get that, then we actually lose. So yeah, right now there are 34 Republicans. We have 150 right now, 149 who have cast their vote, 148 who have cast their vote, and it's 36 right now.
For what purposes does the gentlewoman
11.
from Kansas rise?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Ms. Axney pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Ms. Axney will vote aye on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Mr. Cleaver pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Cleaver will vote aye on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Ms. Holland pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Ms. Holland will vote aye on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Mr. DeFazio pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Mr. DeFazio will vote aye on H.R. 9051.
So honestly, the only thing we're waiting for, or we're actually looking for, is to see what the Republicans.
Does the gentlewoman from Michigan
So it doesn't
rise?
really matter what.
As the member designated by
Democrats
Dr.
are doing.
Reyes of
It's about
California,
what the
pursuant to
Republicans are
HRES 965, I've informed the House that Mr. Reyes will vote aye on HR 9051.
So we have 13 Republicans on board. And again, the great thing about this vote is that they have to be on record for it.
For what purposes does the gentleman from New York rise?
As the member designated by Representative Linda Sanchez from California, pursuant to House Resolution 6965, I inform the House that Ms. Sanchez will vote yea on the motion to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 9051.
Does a gentlewoman from Virginia rise?
As the member designated by Mr. Trone pursuant to HRES 965, I inform the House that Mr. Trone will vote yes on HR 9051. As the member designated by Ms. Schreier pursuant to HRES 965, I inform the House that Ms. Schreier will vote yes on HR 9051. As the member designated by Mr. Mitchell pursuant to HRES 965, I inform the House that Mr. Mitchell will vote no on HR 9051.
So we at 48 nays, and we have a Democrat saying no. So now we have to have 51 votes from Republicans. So we have a Democrat who has crossed the line, who has said
For what
no.
purposes does a gentlewoman from Connecticut rise?
As the member designated by Ms. Wilson pursuant to HRES 965, I inform the House that Ms. Wilson will vote yes on HR 9051.
Does the gentleman from Maryland rise?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Ms. Jayapal pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House Ms. Jayapal votes aye on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Mr. Pocan pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Mr. Pocan votes aye on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Mr. Doggett pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Mr. Doggett votes aye on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Mr. McNerney pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Mr. McNerney votes aye on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Ms. Fletcher pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Ms. Fletcher votes aye on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Mr. Levin pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Mr. Levin votes aye on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Mr. Huffman pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Mr. Huffman votes aye on H.R. 9051.
So currently we have 21 votes from Republicans on
Purposes does the
this
gentleman
bill,
from
with
North
120
Carolina
votes
rise?
left.
Madam Speaker, as a member designated by Mrs. Lee of California, pursuant
The
to
Libertarian
HRES
actually
965, I inform
could
the House
help
that Ms.
us
Lee
to make
will
up for
vote
that
yes.
Democrat laws.
She will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
We have 100 Democrats. We have 124 votes, 125 votes for yes to this bill, with 24 Republicans saying yes, 126 to 58. The numbers are looking good right now, but again, our independent who was there today voted
For
no.
what purposes does the gentlewoman from Florida rise?
So we have to make up everything
As
with
the
the
member
Republicans and the
designated
Democrats.
by Mr. Lawson pursuant to H.R. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Lawson will vote yes on H.R. 9051. Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Ms. Castor pursuant to H.R. 965, I inform the House that Ms. Castor will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
We got 132 votes. 232 votes need to be in. And the nays are actually racking up
As a
on the
member
Republican
designated by
side.
Representative Stanton, pursuant to H.R. 965, inform the House Representative Stanton will vote aye on H.R. 9051. As a member designated by Representative Kirkpatrick, pursuant to H.R. 965, inform the House that Representative Kirkpatrick will vote aye on H.R. 9051. As a member designated by Representative Aguilar, pursuant to H.R. 965, inform the House that Representative Aguilar will vote aye on H.R. 9051. As a member designated by Representative Gomez, pursuant to H.R. 965, inform the House that Representative Gomez will vote aye on H.R. 9051. And as a member designated by Representative Lujan to H.R. 965, inform the House that Representative Lujan will vote aye on H.R. 9051.
Purposes does the gentlewoman from California rise?
We're up to 25. 25
Madam Speaker, as a member
yeas.
designated by Mr. DeSaulnier, pursuant to H.R.S. 965, I inform the House that Mr. DeSaulnier will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
So we're looking at 136 to 71 with 223 votes left. Again, we need more. We need, in order to
Does
get
the gentlewoman from
majority that
Virginia
we
rise?
need, we need
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As the member designated by Mr. Allred,
More
pursuant to House
Republicans to
Resolution
vote
965, I
yes.
inform the House that Mr. Allred will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Mr. Foster, pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Mr. Foster will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Mr. McEachin, pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Mr. McEachin will vote yes on H.R. 9051. And as the member designated by Ms. Porter, pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Ms. Porter will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
So currently we have 142. We have 27 votes from Republicans. Again, we need more votes from the Republicans in order for this to pass. They're still tallying the votes. Currently, the yeas have it. But we still have 205 votes left. Again, we needed about 50 or some odd votes, like 52 or 50 something odd votes in order from Republicans in order to get the majority, because we lost the independents votes. So we got both the independents that were there today.
Says the gentleman
the
from
independents that we had today voted no.
Purposes the gentleman
So
from
there
New
were only
Jersey
two of them.
rise?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Albio Series pursuant to H.R.S. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Series will vote yes on H.R. 9051. And as the member designated by Mr. Bill Pascrell pursuant to H.R.S. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Pascrell will vote yes on H.R. 9051. And as the member designated by Ms. Bonnie Watson Coleman pursuant to H.R.S. 965, I inform the House that Ms. Watson Coleman will vote yes on H.R. 9051. And Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. John Shimkus pursuant to HRES 965, I inform the House that Mr. Shimkus will vote no on H.R. 9051.
We're at 162 with 29 votes for yes. We're at 166. We need 132 votes, approximately 130 votes.
What purposes does the gentleman from Michigan rise?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Kilmer of Washington, pursuant to HRES 965, I inform the House that Mr. Kilmer will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Mr. Heck of Washington, pursuant to HRES 965, I inform the House that Mr. Heck will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Ms. Lawrence of Michigan, pursuant to HRES 965, I inform the House that Ms. Lawrence will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Mr. Horsford of Nevada, pursuant to HRES 965, I inform the House that Mr. Horsford will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
Right now, we still have the yeas taken.
For what purposes does the gentleman from Oregon rise?
As the member designated by Mr. Lipinski of Illinois, pursuant to HRES 965, I inform the House that Mr. Lipinski will vote no on H.R. 9051.
Does the gentlewoman from Minnesota rise?
Madam Speaker, as a member designated by Mr. Peterson pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Mr. Peterson of Minnesota will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
Mr. Who? Gentleman from Massachusetts rise.
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Swalwell pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Mr. Swalwell will vote yea on House Resolution 9051.
We're still waiting for more of the Republican vote that will actually tell us whether we're going to have the 2/3 in order to make this vote count. We have 435 people that were in that sort of.
Thank you, Frank.
Are they ready? Purposes of the gentleman from California rise. Oh, Lord. For what purposes does the gentleman from California rise?
Madam Chair, as the member designated by Mr. Garamendi pursuant to House Res 965, I inform the House that Mr. Garamendi will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
Got 182, 183. We currently have 33 votes yes. We have 2 Democrats now saying no to the bill. This is going to hurt because it's going to be harder to get the numbers for Republicans.
Does the gentleman from
than it are for
Illinois
Democrats.
rise? For what purposes does the gentleman from Illinois rise?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Grijalva, pursuant to HRES 965, I inform the House that Mr. Grijalva will vote aye on H.R. 9051.
We need a lot more Republican votes for this to work.
For what purposes does the gentleman from New Jersey rise?
Madam Speaker, as a member designated by Ms. Shore pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Ms. Shore will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
Does the gentleman from Pennsylvania rise?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As a member designated by Mr. Doyle of Pennsylvania pursuant to House Resolution 965, I hereby inform the House Mr. Doyle will vote yes on H.R. 9051. And as a member designated by Mr. Case of Hawaii pursuant to House Resolution 965, I hereby inform the House that Mr. Case will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
We're at 200 with 127 to a 1 with 126 votes left. We have 37.
For what purposes does the gentleman from
Republicans,
Arizona
38.
rise?
As a member designated by Representative Gonzalez pursuant to H.R. 965, inform the House Representative Gonzalez will vote aye on H.R. 9051.
And again, if we don't get these last votes from Republicans unanimously, this will not pass from the numbers that I calculated in order to get the 2/3. This may not pass. Right now, it's you have to separate.
Gentleman from New York rise.
The way that
the
they
member
calculate
designated
is
by
they-
Chairwoman Nita Lowey pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Chairwoman Lowey will vote yea on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Chairman Jerry Nadler pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Chairman Nadler will vote yea on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Chairwoman Eddie Bernice Johnson pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Chairwoman Johnson will vote yea on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Chairwoman Zoe Lofgren pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Chairwoman Lofgren will vote yea on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Cardinal Jose Serrano pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Cardinal Serrano will vote yea on H.R. 9051.
So the two that actually voted no on the independent side were the one libertarian that we have and the one independent that we have.
Does the gentlewoman from Massachusetts rise?
Once we cross
As
over
the
to
member
218, we have a majority, but we
designated
need a
by
two-thirds
Mr. Cooper, pursuant to
majority in order for this to
H.Res.
pass.
965, I inform the House that Mr. Cooper will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Ms. Brownlee pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Ms. Brownlee will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Ms. Bonamici pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Ms. Bonamici will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Ms. Meng pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Ms. Meng will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Ms. Frankel pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Ms. Frankel will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Ms. Presley pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Ms. Presley will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
We at 213, 214.
Gentlewoman from Ohio rise.
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Ms. Fudge of Ohio pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Ms. Fudge will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
So we are one more vote yes, and we will have now we have a supermajority. A supermajority.
Purposes of the gentleman from California rise.
As the member designated by Mr. Costa of California, pursuant to H.R.S. 965, I'd like to inform the House that Mr. Costa will vote yay on H.R. 9051.
We have more than a supermajority. We've crossed 218, so now we have a supermajority. Again, you're going to need the votes from the Republicans to be pretty unanimous, and I don't foresee it.
For what purposes does the gentlewoman from Texas rise?
Madam Speaker, as a member designated by Mr. Castro of Texas pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Mr. Castro will vote yes on H.R. 9051. Madam Speaker, as a member designated by Ms. Escobar of Texas pursuant to House Res 965, I inform the House that Ms. Escobar will vote yes on H.R. 9051. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
And again, we're not going to get to two. At this point, we have 80 votes left. You need 60 votes in order. That means 20 Republicans need to vote over. We need 290 votes in order for this to pass. And right now, we need we got 233 votes, and we need 290. I don't know if we're going to have enough votes in order to do that. I mean, stranger things have happened in 2020. We got 76 votes left. We need about 60 votes in order to pass this, like 56 votes in order to pass this. We have enough votes out there to do it, but the question is, will we have enough Republicans move over to the side of Democrats on this bill in order to pass it? We need 54
For what
votes.
purposes does the gentlewoman from New York
So
rise?
that means we need
Madam Speaker,
all
as the member
rest of the
designated by
Democrats to
Mr.
pass
Deutsch
this,
of Florida
as
pursuant
well
to
as
H.Res.
two,
965, I inform the House that Mr. Deutsch will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
We need all of the Democrats that are left to vote yes. That's first, and then we need about 20 Republicans.
This is a gentlewoman
in
from New
order
Hampshire
to-
rise.
Good
of
evening,
the
Madam
Republicans
Speaker.
left
As
to
the member
say no.
designated by Ms. Bustos
pass this.
pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Ms. Bustos will vote yay on H.R. 9051.
Again, we're trying to get to, when we're looking at the tally in this, we're looking for a 2/3 majority. And that means we need approximately 290 votes in order for this to pass. We've already lost 2
Does the
votes
gentlewoman from
the
Pennsylvania
Democrats.
rise?
As the member designated by Ms. Davis pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Ms. Davis will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
We're looking at 242. Again, we need about 20. If all of the Democrats vote right now, that would put us at, we are looking at 244, and we have 27. Excuse my math, I'm horrible at
This
math
is a
like that.
gentlewoman from New York rise.
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by
numbers are actually
Chairwoman
going
Nydia
up, so I don't
Velazquez
wanna give you the
pursuant
wrong
to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Ms. Velazquez will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
Okay, so we're at 245. We need 45 more votes. We only have 58 votes left. So if all of the Democrats vote yes to this, we're going to be at 272.
California
Meaning that
rise.
we need
Madam Speaker, as the
28.
member designated by Ms. Chu of California, pursuant to House Resolution 965, I inform the House that Ms. Chu will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
For what purposes does the gentlewoman from Illinois rise?
As the member designated by Mr. Rush pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Rush will
We
vote
need about
yes
18 Republican
on H.R.
votes.
9051. As the member designated by Ms. Schakowsky pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Ms. Schakowsky will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Ms. Finkenauer pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Ms. Finkenauer will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As a member designated by Mr. Davis, Danny Davis, pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Danny Davis will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
We have enough votes out there to be able to make it. We only need about 40 more votes.
This is the gentleman from Massachusetts rise.
As a member designated by Mr. Kennedy of
We need
Massachusetts,
18
pursuant
of the
to
32
H.Res.
that are left
965, I inform the House that Mr. Kennedy will vote yes on H.R. 9051. As a member designated by Mr. Welsh of Vermont, pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Welsh will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
And we only need 18 votes of, well, not 18 anymore. We need 17 votes of this 31 votes that we have currently out. Now, we could get to that 290. We may not. We still have 49 votes left out.
Purposes does the gentleman from Florida rise? For what purposes does the gentlewoman from Florida rise?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Ms. Mukasel Powell of Florida pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Ms. Mukasel Powell will vote yea on H.R. 9051. And Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Hastings of Florida pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Hastings will also vote yea on H.R. 9051. And Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Payne of New Jersey pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Payne will also vote yea on H.R. 9051.
What purposes does the gentleman from California rise?
As the member designated by Representative Cardenas from California, pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Representative Cardenas will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
For what purposes does the gentlewoman from Pennsylvania rise?
As the member designated by Representative Houlihan of Pennsylvania, pursuant to House Res. 965, I inform the House that Ms. Houlihan will vote yes on H.R. 9051. And as the member designated by Representative Lee of Nevada, pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Ms. Lee will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
A lot of these representatives who actually voted and had a lot of these representatives did say yes. So we do have a good number of representatives, but the question is, do we have the numbers of representatives that we'll need? We're at 258 right now.
For what purposes does the
25
gentlewoman from Michigan rise?
25 Republicans left.
As the member designated by Ms. Ocasio-Cortez pursuant to H.Res. 965,
yes.
I inform the House that Ms. Ocasio-Cortez will vote yes on H.R. 9051.
And so will Rashida Tlaib. They're all gonna say yes. They're not gonna say no. They're not gonna not say no. So we don't have any Democrats as of now who have jumped the fence. But we need, once we get down to this 30 votes, if you don't get all of these 30 votes, then the
gentleman
answer
from
is gonna be no.
California rise.
We don't
Thank
get
you,
the
Madam
supermajority.
Speaker. As a member designated by Mr. Gottheimer pursuant to House Res 965, I inform the House that Mr. Gottheimer will vote aye on H.R. 9051. As the member designated by Mr. Thompson of California pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Mr. Thompson will vote aye on H.R. 9051. As a member designated by Ms. Eshoo of California pursuant to H.Res. 965, I inform the House that Ms. Eshoo will vote aye on H.R. 9051.
So we're at 264. Again, we have to have all 30 of these votes. Well, not all 30. That's my apologies. But we have to get, the magic number is 290. Shout out to Lost and Found. Currently, we're at 268. We have what I was looking at the time was about 18 votes. I haven't tallied it or calculated it at the moment. I'm just trying to make sure that the numbers don't switch up when I do the calculations. So once I do the calculations, once they switch back over, I'll look at it again and see how many votes we actually need. Because according to the Democrats, most of them are going to give the votes. Again, like the question that you're asking, we need to know how many Republicans are going to actually help to pass this. We're at 271. We're at 220 with 2 Republicans left over. Let's look at this. So we got 273. Let's just say we're gonna have 274. We need 274. We're going to need about 16 of these votes, 16 Republicans out of this 21 to say yes. So we're going to need 16 more Republican votes in order for this to pass. But Nancy Pelosi had already told them if they don't pass it here, they're going to end up being able to pass it with a majority in a regular session. So that's what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to pass it in a regular session if it does not go here. And the thing about it is the Republicans are actually running. If they don't vote yes and this doesn't pass, then there's a really high chance that the Democrats will also return the favor and not pass the veto. So they were trying to do the veto next, but again, if the Republicans just hardline say no, we're not going to pass this relief check bill, then they're definitely going to lose when they need a majority, the same 2/3 majority to do this veto. They're not going to have it. So again, we need about 16 more votes. There are 21 votes left out there from Republicans, where we can lose a couple of votes at this point in time, but we could lose about 5 or 6 votes, but we need this we need to get this 290. Actually, 15. I'm sorry. We need about 15 more votes because we're at 275. We need to get to 290. Shout out to everybody tuning in with me on this live stream. Leave me a comment. Let me know how you feel about what's going on. Are you nervous? Is this affecting anybody that you know? How is this affecting you? Again, the magic number is 290, and we need 15 more votes. We had our independents screwed us, as well as we had 2 Democrats that screwed us. And I really want to find out, after this is done, who the 2 Democrats were that voted against it.
What a good feeling. On this vote, the yeas are 275. The nays are 134. 2/3 being in the affirmative. The rules are suspended. The bill is passed.
Yes.
And without objection, the
It is
motion
passed.
to
So I
reconsider
was wrong
is
about the
laid
roll call.
on the table.
That's my apologies for the number. I got the number from somewhere
Pursuant
else
to
where they were saying it
Clause
was supposed to be
8
200.
of Rule 20, the unfinished business is the
But
question whether the
it
House
is
on
passed,
reconsideration
so-
will pass the bill H.R. 6395.
What's
the
going on,
objections of the
Sam?
President to the contrary
Samuel Shaw, what's going on?
notwithstanding. In
So
accord
the
with
bill
the
for
Constitution,
the
yeas and
stimulus
nays are
package
ordered.
that was supposed
Members
to pass
are
today
to record their votes by electronic
to raise
device.
to $2,000 has passed in the House. Now we have to go over to the desk of Mitch
So we just
McConnell.
saw the House pass under suspension of the rules by a 2/3 majority.
So we have the 2/3 majority needed. I got the roll call wrong. I read the roll call from somewhere else. But the bill has passed and it's going to the next step. So hopefully that will also pass, because there's enough pressure on the Republican Party in order to pass this for Americans. So yeah, Sam, you came in just at the nick of time, where we see that we have the bill passed. As was said by President Trump, that the bill would actually pass itself. So kudos to our president for saying that he had negotiated this on Mitch, man. Yes, Mitch is going to be a hard line to cross. So yeah, the next step is to get Mitch McConnell to actually agree to passing this amendment to the bill that we passed, to which I think, because President Trump ominously posted, the first thing he did was posted when he tweeted, he said that good news on stimulus. So that means, as well as, not only is it good news on stimulus what he tweeted, but he also said that what he also said was that he was going to be going forward with promoting the 2 candidates in the Georgia runoff. So that is a great thing that we have him coming out and saying, hey, yeah, it is hard. It's a hard shell on that turtle, man. Turtle boy, man. Turtle. Yeah, he is, yeah, that man there. Man, it's going to be crazy. But again, I feel like the Republicans, some of the Republicans and majority of the Republicans that we actually need, are coming to understand that if they don't win this, especially Mitch McConnell himself, if they don't win this, and they don't win this because, one, they went against Donald Trump, where this is a Donald Trump Right now, they're going to be voting for. Right now, they haven't voted for anything, but the next thing they're going to be voting for is the veto of the not the omnibus, but the veto for the military bill that they were working on. So the military funding bill. That's what they're going to be voting on next. But I think that's going to happen later. As it pertains, we've already gotten word that we've seen HR 95. What was it? HR 95-0 that has passed. So we're good there. 90-51. That is the House bill that just passed. The House Resolute that just passed. HR 95-1. That's what it is. Just passed, and that was for the raising of the stimulus checks from $600 to $2,000 per couple. I think I have to read over the bill again to see if because this is called the Cash Act. So this is called the Cash Act. And I want to see if that was for $2,000 per individual or if it was $2,000 and then the $600 for the dependents. I wanted to see that because I know that that's what they were saying was going to be about $5,200 for a family of 4. So currently I have a family of 5. I have 5 children and it's 2 of us. So we have a family of 7. Yeah, I have a lot of kids. No, they're not voting. The vote has already ended. As far as it goes with HR 9051, they got the super majority that they actually need. Well, not the super majority. I'm sorry. Super majority would have been 218 votes. But they got the 2/3 majority for the vote. So the vote is done. Now it's going over to the next step on Mitch's desk. It will go on Mitch McConnell's desk very soon. Now that it has already passed the House. So yeah, again, this is important for Mitch McConnell in the fact that if he loses this Georgia runoff election due to the fact that he himself did not give this stimulus to the people, it's going to be a huge stain for the Republican Party moving forward, especially with them going against Donald Trump, who has taken this populist stance on what's going on, this populist stance with the people, setting himself up for his 2024 return if he runs in 2024. The rumor is he's going to run in 2024. One of the things that he is talking about getting repealed is the Section 2. I forgot what the number is. Forgive me for that. I've been mainly focused on 9051 right now, so forgive me for that. But the basically the social media portion of the bill that they have, he wants to get rid of that portion of it. So if he can get rid of that portion of it, he would have had a huge win in his corner. Now, right now, as it stands, he still has a phenomenal win because he told us that he already negotiated with many people saying that this would pass. And what just happened? It passed. He said he was going to do it. Now it's up to Mitch McConnell to either say whether they're going to split the vote in Congress. They're going to split the vote with the Republicans, where more Republicans are going to vote against it, or are they just going to unanimously pass it so that it will give them more leverage in the election, and then they can share the win with Donald Trump, showing that they're more populist in their thinking when it actually comes down to the wire. So, yeah. Okay, so right now they are voting, right now they have on passage objections of the president to contrary notwithstanding. This is the vetoing of the vetoing of the House Bill 6395, which is the military funding. So they're trying to unveto that. So yeah, man, what do you guys think about? How do you feel about how I want to phrase this? What exactly do you think is going to happen once this bill leaves the House and goes to sits on Mitch McConnell's desk? Do you think he's going to go align himself with Donald Trump, knowing that the Republican Party, as it stands right now, is a Donald Trump party? Or do you think he's going to go down the line of being a deficit hawk like they have been and saying, hey, we can't do this $2,000. It's going to hurt us as far as economically. How do you feel about that? And for anyone who feels the same way that many deficit hawks feel, where they feel like this is going to hurt our economy, are you juxtaposing that to how the economy is actually doing right now? Because as it stands right now, the stock market is actually up at the current time. So we don't have any losses going on in the economy. And I truly feel that once President Trump made this deal with whatever backdoor golf trip deal he made with whomever he made it with, do you think they're just going to ignore that deal and say, hey, gotcha, to Donald Trump and not pass it? And again, the economy is up. So a lot of people are saying, well, the economy is up. There's no reason for us to actually be looking at not doing this bill, as well as the fact that we actually have been experiencing deflation. Because as a homeowner, I know a lot of my fellow brothers, we all own homes. So we were able to, fortunately, take out mortgage forbearance, as well as we still have our businesses, the businesses that we're running. But very possible he could get got. I mean, yeah, he could. Yes, he could get got. He could get got. They could take a hard line and say, hey, you on your way out, boy. We're not giving you no more leverage. You already tried to play us. This is a screw you to you causing all of this ruckus in our party. We're going to say this is what our party stands for. We're taking our party back. This could be one of those moves. But again, I don't know. The actual Georgia runoff election is going to say whether Mitch McConnell keeps his seat or not, or maintains power. So if he doesn't maintain power, it's going to be on him, because he denied the American people, the American voter, a more populist stance. Populism is king now. I know a lot of people like to throw out and say, hey, socialism, but it's not really socialism. The populist stance is what is winning when it comes to people. You don't have to give them more socialism. You just have to have more of a popular stance than the other person. Donald Trump didn't run on Medicare for all, even though that was a very socialist stance. But he did run on the fact that he was trying to bring America back to America. He stood for American values and bringing jobs back to America. Let's just look at what he did during the coronavirus, with the whole what he signed in place for 3M, so that they would have to stop the processing of any of their items to other countries and solely making like all of the masks, any of the masks, and any of the PPE that they were creating. He stopped them from shipping that out to other countries. And then we had a company that was actually losing before the coronavirus, and now they're winning. He had he actually visited that company, the actual factory, and that factory was booming around the coronavirus. And now that we have so many companies thriving, we're actually exporting more. So that's something very keen and in line with Donald Trump has always preached, and that's talking about bringing business back to America, to bring jobs back to America so that we're exporting more. Now, a lot of my Republican friends who are very corporatist, they will say, well, that's not good for our economy because we need to be operating in the world space. But how has that affect the average American? The Indians are making a lot of money with the call centers. This was an issue with a lot of Americans here. I can't get an American or somebody who speaks English on the phone. That's not me being racist. That is a very, because I want someone who speaks my language. I want someone who understands me. Now, that's going into the anecdotal from a personal stance, but let's just look at what they've done. They created an entire business model that allows them to take money from us instead of us having those businesses here in America. Let's just think about the taxes that were passed that allowed the taxes on big business to be lowered so we can compete in the world model. Now we have businesses that have come back, car factories that have come back. Now we need to get car factories to go back to Detroit, Michigan. This is what make America great again, is when you're talking about not that certain segment that they were talking about, but for a large majority of people who you didn't hear from, which they called the silent majority. This is what they were talking about. Now, I don't know what Joe Biden is going to do. We do know that Joe Biden has said in the speech that he wants more stimulus. However, he was okay with the $600 that we were going to get now, because he was going to try to pass $1,200 once he got into presidency. So we would have gotten the $2,000 from either, if you look at it either way, well, it wouldn't have been $2,000. He would have shorted us $200. So he would have gave us $600, and then we would have got 12. That would have been $1,800 per individual couple. So again, and then I don't even know how he was going to formulate that. But by him having his relationship, talking about Joe Biden, by him having his relationship with Turtle, I do feel that they were going to lowball us again. And I mean us as in Americans. Again, my family here is fine, but I do think about all of those people who are not. I just watched something on YouTube where here in Virginia they had a documentary on a family who lost the husband lost his job, or his wages got shorted, and now they're running around trying to find somewhere to live in the cold, because if I walk out my door, it is freezing outside. And they have to live in their car right now. They have to live in their car. During the coronavirus, nowhere to live, no real funding, no real check coming in. They have to live in their car. This is not the only, and then the entirety of the evictions that have been happening, because evictions here in Virginia have been still happening. Even though the CDC put out what they put out, they still been evicting people in Virginia. They've been finding loopholes around that. And there are millions upon millions of Americans that are dealing with the same situation. So again, it's kind of like this was not only a little too late, but at the same time, this should have been a part of the negotiations. Nancy Pelosi should not have stopped the negotiations due to her trying to win the election. Let's not forget that the issue that we have now is because of Nancy Pelosi and the negotiation tactics that they implemented during the summer. We could have been had $1,200 checks, and then coming around to now, been talking about maybe another $1,200 check right now, had we passed something before the election. But again, we're dealing with people who don't understand the common person. The median income for Americans is $68,000. Majority of everyone who sits in Congress and sits in the House or sits on Capitol Hill, period, pushing the buttons, makes over $300,000. Many Republicans are getting kickbacks from this military funding, and many of them are making upwards of $700,000. If you go back to my video on Rand Paul, we broke that down. Rand Paul makes Rand Paul is worth $775,000. Rand Paul is worth $775,000. And he's saying that his children don't need a stimulus check because they're working. This is from his own mouth, his own speech. He sat there on the floor and said that. The people who are voting against us make all of the money. The top 10% are the people who are sitting in government. They are not to be trusted. That is why it was so important today for us to see who voted against this bill. Put it on the line. Put your name on the line. So now that this is out, the vote is done. Now we can go back and look at each and every person's voting record and see who voted no. It's easy as that. And then we push the narrative against these people so that they can get out of office and we can get people who are actually populist, regardless if they're Democrat or Republican. Because Bernie Sanders, and I keep forgetting the name of the senator, the congressman who stood up with Bernie Sanders, they were bipartisan on $1,200 for the people. And these are the type of people that we actually need in government. I would vote for their ticket if Bernie Sanders was running for president, or even the other way. That would be a first, a bipartisan presidency. But hey, what do I know? I'm just sipping sauce. So I truly appreciate each and every last one of you for tuning in to this broadcast today. We're definitely going to do this again. Subscribe, like, share, and subscribe this video. Spread the message, spread the narrative. Let people know what is actually going on so they're not oblivious to what's going on. Because we all know that news is not going to make this into a show of we won. And they're not going to give credit to where credit is due. So again, I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. As I say all the time, love your neighbor as yourself and love God with all of your heart. Peace and blessings.
Praise God. Praise God. Praise God. Praise God. Praise God. Praise God. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, they go low